of two things that will happen. You'll either get the same value you would have gotten today, but at least you give yourself a chance to get more in return. But you're not going to take less. You're not going to take a hit on the asset in Brogdon if you decide to wait till the summertime. That's a good place to be. Yeah, I think the hard part, mindset-wise, Burkhardt, is that for the last several years, the trade deadline has been – there's been urgency with the Trailblazers in the trade deadline because the mindset, at least what I had as a fan, was they got to go out there and make a move to bring in someone that they can pair with Dame to have a chance to compete for a championship.
Yeah.
So there was urgency around it. But now when you're in year one of a full rebuild and you've got cap flexibility and you've got a ton of future picks that you're going to have access to, and you've got multiple veteran pieces you can move at some point to bring in young players or picks, there's no urgency. They didn't have to do something today. It's a different mindset than what we've had the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years for trade deadline day in Portland.
Yeah, they didn't have to do anything. And as someone tweeted at me, it was interesting because they're like, another trade deadline where the Blazers front office does nothing. And I'm just like, how can anyone stone-faced look you in the eye and says the Blazers front office does nothing? They've traded CJ. They've traded Larry Nance. They've traded Robert Covington, Norman Powell, right? They traded Damian Lillard. They are making moves. They are doing things. It's just not the things that we anticipated or wanted in the long run, right? They've been making moves. They've been shaking it up. They haven't been playing it safe. Playing it safe is not trading Dame, right? That's the safe play. You don't have to like what's going on by any means, but they're trying to make moves. And I still find the vision to be very, very clear as to what they're trying to do.
All right, so how do you see the rest of the year? The way I look at it is very simple. I don't expect Shaedon Sharpe to play another game this year because of the core surgery.
Agreed.
There's only 32 games remaining. So I guess priority number one is the continued development of Scoot, Tomani, and Jabari, and then making sure they continue to work with DeAndre Ayton to get him comfortable in the lineup and get his teammates comfortable with him so they can continue to get him moving in the right direction. And then what else from there? What else is left? Development of the young players.
Development of the young players, for sure.
DeAndre Ayton and Chauncey Billups just continuing to coach the way he wants them to play.
Yeah.
Anything else on your mind for the final 32?
No. I mean, well, the one thing that needs to happen, and needs to happen yesterday, is give Duop that contract that he's earned.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. You're right. He's going to get one. In fact, when we spoke with Sean Hyken earlier today, he said that would definitely be a priority. They have no choice, basically, because he's going to hit that 50-game mark. You can use the G League players for up to 50 games, and then you've got to make a decision. So they will. They'll convert him to a full NBA contract. And that's good. Props to Duop. He's been great.
Shout out to Travis Demers the other day, too. I'm filling in on the Blazers pre- and post-game show, and he's like, hey, he texts me. He's so kind, by the way. He's like, hey, it's Duop, not Duop. And I'm like, oh, my bad. It's my Hawaiian tongue, but thank you.
So what you're saying is it's not a doo-wop singer.
He's not a doo-wop singer.
It's not a doo-wop singer.
Just doo-wop. Okay.
Doo-wop.
Thanks.
Or as Chauncey says, wop.
Yeah.
He's been great. He's been a good find. I would say I don't even think they're going to, bottom out like we've seen the last couple of years. I think they'll continue to play the guys that we've seen, this rotation that Chauncey's kind of settled on, and they'll continue to compete and try to win games between now and the end of the season. Mm-hmm. Maybe they get to the final couple of weeks. Maybe they'll usher in the young guys exclusively. But
no, I could see that. I could see final few weeks. It's, Chris Murray getting starts, Ryan Rupert in the lineup, right? Ibu Baji's getting more run. Like I could see that for sure. But right now, don't tinker with it. Like, it's easy to be upset, Chad, because you aren't winning a lot of games. But you look at how this team played over the last few stretch of games. They get a win over Philly. They get a win over the Bucks. And yeah, they lost 2, but I thought they played pretty darn good basketball in 2 games against the Denver Nuggets, all things considered.
They did. And we're seeing signs, especially with the offense. I think they had 29 assists in that game on Sunday, Chris. Better ball movement and player movement. Passes per game is up. DeAndre Ayton has been much more effective. They're doing a good job of looking for him and getting him engaged early. So there's some good signs. I know that a lot of fans don't want to hear that, but there are. This season was never about wins and losses, but player development and Chauncey continuing to lay a foundation for how he wants his guys to play is critical. So that's where we're at. Let's go out to the phones. I think Sean in Sandy wants to chime in. Let's see what's on his mind. Sean, welcome to the Blazers Game Day. What's on your mind, my friend?
Hey, thanks for taking my call, Chad. I just want to say that I haven't been a Blazer fan all my life. I've lived here in Portland since 1974, and I love what's going on. And it's just part of growing up, and I love the way that Chauncey's got the kids, hustling and playing hard. We've only been blown out a few times this year. Most of the games been like 10-point losses. They've all been good competitive games, and I just like what they're doing. I just love the guys that the heart of the team and what they're building, the core of the team. And I think they're going to make a couple moves here in the off season. Who knows what's going to happen? And I really think that Anthony Simons and maybe Grant, those guys are probably going to be the last two guys as part of the old regime that'll be moved on here in the off season. But I love what's going on, brother. I'm patient, and I'm just hopeful and understanding. I hope you have a great day tomorrow, and I hope you get bundled up and just have a good time.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Thank you, Sean. There's Sean and Sandy. I don't think Ant or Grant are going anywhere anytime soon. Not at all. And there's no way. So we'll see what happens. But that's where we're at. The Blazers didn't make any big moves at the deadline. They will hold on to what they have, and then we'll see what they're able to do during the course of the offseason. All right, telephone number is 503-248-0620, 503-248-0620. We'll come back on Blazer Game Day, and when we do, we'll recap what went down Sunday in Denver. The Blazers have been fortunate enough to get a few days off to get some rest and practice time in preparation for the game tonight against the Pistons. Tip-off is coming up at 7. Chris Burkhardt is here. Chad Doing is with you. Join us tomorrow at the Jackson's Food Mart off Bangy Road right there at I-5 and 217. Chilling for a cause. Dwight and I will be in the cooler for 3 hours, raising awareness and money for ALS Northwest. Well, without question, Scoot Henderson is in the middle of his best stretch of basketball in his rookie season. And he's coming off that weekend in Denver where he had the 30-point performance. He had 5 straight games where he shot better than 50% from the field. We've seen him be more decisive, more explosive, attacking the rim, showing his athleticism. And I think it was Dave Deckard who pointed out that with his strength, his frame, he's got a unique ability to be able to absorb contact and finish around the rim. He's playing with confidence. He's working really hard. His demeanor, as I've mentioned time and time again, is spot on. He listens to his coaches, studies the film, and puts in a lot of time by himself working on his game. He's got everything you want as a young player. And he's got incredible amounts of God-given ability. The guy's unbelievable. And Chauncey Billups talked about Scoot's recent play coming out of Denver.
And for the record, Kobe picked the pose you're about to see. So if anyone has any issues with it, tough shit.
Oh, let me just mute that. Sorry, Vanessa.
You're giving me the weird look. I'm like, you always tell me to keep the computer on, Chad.
I know. I don't know why it replayed. Why did it replay?
I don't know.
Well, don't turn anything on. Just keep it all off. All right. Let me just make sure we're all straight here. Jeez, Vanessa Bryant getting off. They did unveil the statue of Kobe Bryant. He's going to have 3 statues out in front of Crypto.com Arena. One for a pose where he's in number 8. He'll have one with him and his daughter Gianna. And he'll have one in his jersey 24, which is great, which is terrific. Now, here is Chauncey Billups talking about Scoot.
I loved everything about Scoot's game tonight. You know, obviously he struggled from the field, but he's so much more than that. You know, you look at him get 9 assists, 8 rebounds, toughness that he plays with, the fire that he plays with, the pace that he plays with. I thought it opened up the game for us tonight. So, yeah, he's going to be the type of player that it doesn't even matter what his field goal, what it looks like. He could have been 8 for 16 or 3 for 16. His floor game, his defensive, he can do so much. So I love Scoot's game tonight.
All right, so Scoot Henderson in a great spot right now. And I would say the great part is, for the rest of the year, is that he's going to come off the bench. It'll be Ant and Brogdon, Ant and Thibault. That'll be the combination at guard because I don't expect Shaden Sharp to return this year. And with Scoot coming off the bench, he knows what to expect. And Burkhardt and I have talked about this, but I think what helps young players, regardless of role, whether it's starting or coming off the bench, just knowing what to anticipate, what to expect, and knowing how many minutes you're going to play, it allows you to better prepare. You can mentally prepare. And Scoot's in a good groove right now. Like I said, to start the year, I was like, dude, just start him and play him, regardless of the result. But the Blazers, with his early struggles, they found this role for him off the bench. And so far with the results, it's hard to argue against it. So I actually respect the heck out of it. I think it's a good spot for him right now, and he can continue to work on his game. Now, I've heard, I think it was Sean and Sandy who mentioned that Grant and Ant would be traded during the offseason. I don't see that at all. I think Grant's going to be here for a while. And Anthony Simons, from everyone I've talked to, the Blazers have no plans to move him. And you could see the future backcourt be Ant and Scoot possibly. So we got plenty of time on that. So we'll see how things shake out. I'll get to the recap here in just a moment. Let's go out to the phones. Miguel, who's out in McMinnville, wants to join. Miguel, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, just to piggyback off of, not thinking that Ant's going anywhere. I don't think he is either, but the NBA is weird, and, anyone can be sent anywhere. And what about a homecoming in Orlando? You don't think that they're closer to what, to a championship or to getting to what they want than what we are to what we want? So giving us something lucrative, some picks, and maybe a couple of players to going, okay, we can progress with what we want with Scoot and, maybe something like that.
Well, I think it's a possibility, Miguel, in the future. I mean, at some point, the Blazers will have to make some sort of a decision, but it's not going to have to be anytime soon. Like, at some point, they'll have to make a decision like, okay, we're going to go with our 2 guards as Ant and Scoot, or it's going to be Scoot and Shaden, but they don't have to make that decision right away. And they'll just continue to play and see how things develop. I don't know how that's going to work out next year, whether it's going to be Ant and Shaden with Scoot off the bench. If they'll look to start Scoot, there's a lot of work to be done. But at some point, you would think there'll be a fork in the road where they'll have to make that decision. Maybe 18 months down the road, 2 years. Like at some point, they probably will have to make a decision, but it's not going to be this summer. I don't see it being that way. I mean, that would be my guess. Going back to the game on Sunday, it's hard to believe the Blazers haven't played a game since Sunday because it's been such a busy part of the schedule. But they had the back-to-back games on Friday and Sunday against the Nuggets, the defending champs, and they played well in both of them. In that game on Sunday, great first quarter for the Blazers, who entered the game without Jeremy Grant and Malcolm Brogdon, who were nursing injuries. And Coach Billups stayed with that rotation by starting Thibault and Simons at guard with Scoot coming off the bench. The Blazers raced out to a 14-5 lead following a DeAndre Ayton bucket, 9-point advantage with 8:33 to play in the first. A free throw from Nikola Jokic cut the Blazers' lead to 4 at 24-20, but the Blazers were able to respond once again and go on a nice little run thanks to Scoot Henderson.
Simons brings it across, looks in the corner for Scoot, wide open three on the way, got it! Scoot Henderson from the corner, and the Blazers lead by 10. 2:37 to play in the first quarter, timeout Denver.
And Portland used the final 3:31 to rip off a 13-5 run to extend their lead to 37-25 at the end of one. The Blazers dished out 10 assists in the first. They shot 50%, nailed 6 of 10 from downtown. It was really a terrific first 12 minutes of action for the Trailblazers. Now, early in the second, the Blazers, still trying to maintain that advantage, they were able to turn to Toumani Camara to keep their edge.
Pass is deflected. It hits off the backboard all the way out to Murray. Now to Simons. Kicks to the corner. Open corner three from Camara. Buries it. Toumani Camara from downtown. And the Blazers in front by 8.
After that, Denver used a 20-10 run in the second, which cut the Blazers' lead to 4 at 54-50 with 2:47 left in the first half. And the Blazers would take a 63-60 lead into halftime. Portland shot 53% in the first half and were on fire, 10 of 18 from downtown. The Blazers dished out 19 assists, which is a massive number for them. I'd love to see it. Ant led the team with 15. Ayton had 14 points, 4 rebounds, and Scoot scored 9 off the bench. The Nuggets did even up the game at 67 in the third, but Portland maintained their advantage. And following an Ayton hoop, they held a lead of 78-75, forcing a Nugget timeout at the 5:47 mark of the third. The Blazers took a 9-point lead at 84-75, but the Nuggets responded with an 11-0 run to close out the third quarter with a big help from Nikola Jokic.
Murray slows it down with 10 seconds. There's about a second and a half differential. Here's the bounce pass to Jokic to the rim, lays it in. Denver leads for the first time tonight.
And Denver would take a 2-point lead at 86-84 heading into the fourth. And the Nuggets continue to pour it on as they push their run out to 19-2 thanks to Jamal Murray, and the Nuggets took control of the game.
91-86 Denver. Murray pulls up for 3. That's good. He has been terrific tonight. Chauncey Billups wants timeout as Denver extends their lead to 8. 94-86. It is a 19-2 Nuggets run in the last 6.5 minutes of basketball.
And there you go. The Nuggets would push that run to 23-2, and they would go on to win the game. And the Blazers take back-to-back losses in Denver. They've had the last 3 days off, a couple of days of practice, and they'll get ready for the Detroit Pistons coming up tonight. And then on Saturday, it will be the New Orleans Pelicans. Zion and CJ going to be in town. And after the game, Chauncey Billups talked about that good start, which was nice to see.
We talked about how poorly we started the last game. Against great teams, you just can't have those type of starts, especially on the road. And I thought our guys had great carryover coming out of that locker room and just going out and fighting and scrapping and laying on the line. So I was very happy with our start, and I thought we played as good of a first half as you could play. We shot it well, a lot of good things.
And as you just heard, they went the Nuggets on that 23-2 run. Not a good finish for Portland. Here's Coach Billups.
I mean, we got some pretty good looks. Just couldn't make it. You go 1 for 13 from the 3 against a team, and they're getting some momentum. It makes it tough. I thought we did a better job in the second half. The one area we struggled at in the first half was we just couldn't keep them off the glass. The offensive rebounds really hurt us. Did a better job in the second half of just finishing great defensive possessions. Created some opportunities, just couldn't make the shots.
All right, one other thing I want you to hear from Coach Billups. Here he is from practice yesterday, just talking about DeAndre Ayton and his recent play. The last 7 games, he's been terrific.
Yeah, they're getting better. They're getting better together. You can just tell that they're starting to get to know each other's game a lot more. But obviously, Ant has the ball a lot of times. But it's not just those two. Like, I think everybody's more figuring DA out more and learning how to get him the ball and where to give him the ball. And it'll just keep getting better and better.
And for you, it seems as though you like to get him early and often to kind of get him started. Do you feel like that works for him?
Yeah, I do. I've always felt that way about a big man, in particular a big man that, have the ability to score and stuff. Like, you try to get them going early. They do more for you everywhere. Defensively, offensively, like you feel involved, you feel appreciated, you do more for people. So there's no different in this game, and so we try to get him the ball early and see how it's going. And he's been great. he's been awesome for us.
We were just talking about earlier today on our podcast how impressed we've been with his passing from the paint. Have you noticed that as well?
Yeah, his decision making has been pretty good from the paint when he kicks that ball in the pocket, which is where he most of the time gets it, especially if he's in the pick and roll with Ant and or Malcolm. He catches him in the pocket a lot, and he's doing a good job of reading that low man defender. And he's making the good passes, man. He's been doing a good job.
All right, so the Trailblazers now getting ready for the Pistons tonight, and we know pretty much what the lineup's going to be. Checking the latest injury report for your Portland Trailblazers. Let's see here. What are we looking at tonight? We know that Shaedon Sharpe, I just don't think he's going to play again this year, now that we know he's going to have the core surgery. So tonight, Malcolm Brogdon, he's got a general illness. That's the way it's listed. He's questionable for tonight's game. And Scoot Henderson's got a left foot sprain. So we know that Shaedon Sharpe is out. Ayton and Henderson are questionable. Jeremy Grant and Jabari Walker are probable. Man, the injury list has always been a bugaboo for Chauncey throughout the year. So we'll see how things shake out. Ayton is ill. Left foot contusion for Henderson. Shaedon Sharpe's got the core surgery. Jeremy Grant's dealing with that lower back strain. And Jabari Walker's got a right ankle sprain. But Grant and Walker are both questionable. Or, probable. Grant, Walker, probable. Ayton, Henderson are both questionable. All right, we'll keep things rolling. It's game day. Blazers and Pistons coming up at 7 o'clock. Chris Burkhardt is here. When we come back, I'll give you a scoreboard report and let you know what's going on around the association and give you an update on the latest moves that went down at the deadline today. All right, let's start with this before we get to the scores. Some of the moves that went down at the trade deadline. The Blazers acquired Celtics guard Delano Blanton for a future second-round pick. OKC acquired Gordon Hayward from the Hornets for guards Trey Mann, Veliche Micic, and forward Davis Bertans. Brooklyn Nets acquired Dennis Schroeder and Thaddeus Young from the Raptors in exchange for Spencer Dinwiddie. The Knicks acquired Bojan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks from the Pistons in exchange for Evan Fournier, Quentin Grimes, Malachi Flynn, and Ryan Arcidiacono, and a couple of second-round picks. The Jazz shipped out Kelly Olynyk to the Raptors for a first-rounder. The Sixers acquired Buddy Hield from the Pacers for Marcus Morris, Furkan Korkmaz, and 3 second-round picks. And the Sixers sent Patrick Beverley to Milwaukee and Jaden Springer to the Celtics for second-round picks. Checking the NBA scoreboard tonight and what's going on around the association. Right now, halftime in Indiana, the Warriors on top of the Pacers 70-58. Steph Curry with 29 points. Halftime in Orlando, the Magic on top of the Spurs 61-44. Franz Wagner with 15 points. Second quarter in Brooklyn, the Cavs on top of the Nets 32-21. Mitchell with 13 points early for Cleveland. Into the first in New York. This game's on TNT. Mavericks over the Knicks 28-22. Bulls and Grizzlies just tipped off in Memphis. Coming up here in just a moment from Milwaukee, Timberwolves and Bucks. Minnesota favored by 2.5. 6 o'clock tip down in Phoenix. Jazz and Suns. Phoenix favored by 4.5. TNT, the second part of the doubleheader. Nuggets are in Los Angeles to meet the Lakers. Denver favored by 3.5. And the Pistons and Trailblazers. 7 o'clock tip from Moda. And Portland right now favored by 6.5. Burkhardt, with any of the moves, anything catch your eye in terms of what went down at the deadline?
Yeah, Patrick Beverley to the Bucks.
With Dame?
Yeah, and Doc Rivers there too. Does Milwaukee just like chaos or what? That one's interesting. But no, I think the Royce O'Neal's a good one that you mentioned. I think P.J. Washington to Dallas, I think that's a good one. Interestingly enough, they're like, yeah, we Grant Williams, he's a get, and now they don't trust him anymore. And I really like the Alec Burks Bogdanovich deal with the Knicks. They need, I mean, the guy think they gave away quickly to get OG Anunoby, need a little bit of bench production, and Alec Burks been playing great, and Bogdanovich is a certified bucket.
I mean, if you are a Knicks fan, you got to feel pretty good about where you're at because the team's been busy, and they weren't going to stand pat. They went out there and put themselves in a position to become a much more viable playoff team this year.
And a lot of the Knicks fans I saw on social media were pretty happy with their trade deadline day.
Because the way I'm looking at the Eastern Conference now, I used to think it was clearly just Boston and Milwaukee, but with Milwaukee's defensive woes, like that might be not, they may not be able to overcome that by the end of the season. We'll see. I still think they're the second best team, but now it opens up the pathway for the Knicks or somebody else to slide in and create competition there at the top with Boston. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, and we've watched this how many times. It's all about getting hot at the right time. And the Knicks have built themselves up to, if they're hot at the right time come playoff time, they can knock some teams off.
And I'm with you. You called this from the start of the year. I think the Nuggets are the best team in the NBA. I think they're the best team in the West. I'm now looking at the Western Conference. I don't know what to expect from Minnesota and Oklahoma City come postseason time because they're young and inexperienced. But I think they're threats. But now I'm looking at the Suns and the Clippers, maybe the Pelicans, as teams that can provide healthy competition for Denver out there. But I like the way the Clippers have played until last night. I watched that game last night, and it was kind of underwhelming. They lost to New Orleans at home. But they're getting good production from Kawhi and Paul George. They've been relatively healthy, so we'll see what they can do come postseason time. But I still think Denver's the best.
Yeah, it's quite amazing how good your team can look when Kawhi Leonard plays, you know, when he decides to be healthy. But, I mean, I don't think anyone expected them to turn it around post James Harden trade, right? Like, oh, that's not going to – it's worked. They've been playing really good. So, yeah, there's healthy competition out there. Last year, we argued that, you know, it's an interesting year because it felt like it was wide open. I'm with you. Still think Denver is the favorite. They're the defending champs for a reason, but this is beginning to feel like another wide open year.
All right, in the East right now, Boston is atop. They've got a 5-game lead over Cleveland, 6-game lead over the Bucks and the Knicks. Who do you think is the main competition to Boston in the Eastern Conference? Is it Milwaukee or somebody else?
I think it's Milwaukee, without question. I mean, that team right now is still pretty darn good, despite the fact they're still trying to find themselves and balance things out. You know, decided to change head coaches midway through the season. And Doc's 1-4 or something like that. But they got Giannis, man. Anytime you got the best player in the world, you got a chance.
Only 5 games separate the top of the West all the way down to 6 with New Orleans. Sacramento in 7th is 5.5 back. There's a 3-team tie atop the West right now between Oklahoma City, Minnesota, and Denver. Of that group, who is the main competition in the West in your mind to Denver right now? Is it one of these surprise teams like Minnesota or Oklahoma City, or is it somebody else?
That right there is actually a really good question. I think in the 7-game series, I think the one that is probably the biggest challenge to them, and this is going to sound really weird, but I think it's Minnesota because of having those 2 big 7-footers, right, that are going to make Nikola Jokic absolutely work on both ends of the floor. I like those matchups. And, of course, Chet, kind of the same thing on the other end, but in a different way just because he can space the floor. But, I mean, if you're Jokic and you have to go against Gobert, and when they switch, you have to go against Cat, and you have to do that for a 7-game series, you're going to get beat up a little bit no matter who you are. That's a nasty little matchup.
It's going to be fun. I like having the new blood and the new teams in there. It keeps it intriguing because we've had a lot of the same teams over the last several seasons, but now I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I know Portland fan doesn't for obvious reasons, but I like Denver. I like Michael Malone. I think he's a good coach, good dude. Nikola Jokic is likable, even though he's so hateable, but he's likable. I like Denver.
I just like the way they play. Their assist totals, the way they share the basketball. Malone gets on his guys. They defend. He's a good coach.
Yeah.
He's good.
I liked watching those 2 games because one thing you see like that Nikola Jokic does that so many players don't do, even great point guards, is the minute the ball gets in his hand, he isn't looking to score. He's analyzing the court around him to see where that ball needs to go to next. Does it need to go to the hoop or does it need to go to somebody else's hand? He's always looking to make the right play. I love it.
All right, we'll come back on game day. When we do, we'll step into the coach's corner and hear from Chauncey Billups, Pistons, and Blazers coming up from Moda tonight at 7 o'clock here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, we'll hear from Coach Billups in just a moment following yesterday's practice. The latest in regards to the injury report, DeAndre Ayton, Malcolm Brogdon, and Scoot Henderson all out tonight. Anthony Simons, Matisse Thybulle, Tamani Kamara, Jeremy Grant, and DeWop Reef are your starters. But WAP is a game-time decision. So that's what you have. But, Chris, you were just whispering in my ear a couple of moments ago. Like we saw this move today with Higgins. It is awesome to have your own G League team in town and be able to call guys up and have access to that when you hit a spot like we see tonight. What a valuable resource for the team.
Without a doubt, I think you're seeing it pay off right now. You're seeing it pay off in multiple ways, right? I mean, DeWop Reef is a guy who's getting minutes. Justin Manaya's been around. You had Skylar Mays, who's no longer with the team, but it paid off. And this is another one. You don't have to really work hard to get your guy. You just go, okay, we know what we got down there at the Rip City Remix. Get him on a 10-day, get him up here, and it gets it done quick.
Wow. Ayton, Brogdon, and Scoot all out tonight. This could be a big night for Simons. He might go off tonight. He'll have a chance to have some freedom to go out there and put up some shots.
I mean, heck, if you're picking a day to slow play it today when Detroit traded or cut half of their team. I mean, Ben Wallace might show up in uniform, and he might ask Coach Billups to dust off the old uniform as well because they got no bodies.
Billups should suit up for his former team tonight. That'd be pretty funny. What a mess.
That'd be kind of great.
All right, let's check in with Coach Billups. This is from practice. Let's hear what he has to say about this squad.
Coach, we've talked a little bit about DA since he's been back. He and Ant continuing to work on that connection. Have you seen that game to game?
Yeah, they're getting better. They're getting better together. You could just tell that they're starting to get to know each other's game a lot more. But obviously, Ant has the ball a lot of times. But it's not just those two. Like, I think everybody's more figuring DA out more and learning how to get him the ball and where to get him the ball. And it'll just keep getting better and better.
And for you, it seems as though you like to get him early and often to kind of get him started. Do you feel like that works for him?
Yeah, I do. I've always felt that way about big man, in particular big man that, have the ability to score and stuff. Like, you try to get them going early. They do more for you everywhere. Defensively, offensively, like you feel involved, you feel appreciated, you do more for people. So there's no different in this game, and so we try to get him the ball early and see how it's going. And, he's been great. DA he's been awesome for us.
We were just talking about earlier today on our podcast how impressed we've been with his passing from the paint. Have you noticed that as well?
Yeah, his decision-making has been pretty good from the paint when he kicks that ball in the pocket, which is where he most of the time gets it, especially if he's in the pick and roll with Ant and or Malcolm. He catches it in the pocket a lot, and he's doing a good job of reading that low-man defender, and he's making the good passes, man. He's been doing a good job.
What have you thought about Scoot's ability to draw fouls lately and get to free throw? Now, it seems like that's something he's improved upon in the last month or so.
Yeah, it's his aggression. It's his aggression. I always believe that the most aggressive person in that matchup usually will win. And he's aggressive the whole time, trying to get to the basket, trying to get to the paint. And it's working for him, and it works for us. We love when we get teams in the bonus with 6-7 minutes left in the quarter. We can kind of control the tempo. And Scoot, that's been one of the things that we tell him, like, you should be on the attack all the time. And that's just a byproduct of that,
It also seems, too, that maybe he's getting a little better at going to the rim and knowing what he's doing there. So, because it seemed like maybe initially he was I don't say trying to avoid contact, but just trying to, get up finishes that seemed like might be a little difficult for him. When you just kind of go straight to the basket and go up, like, you're more likely to get the call in those situations, it seems.
Yeah, what you're saying with him is just, experience. He's just starting to experience these things and starting to understand and know how to get fouled. He see guy on the drive, he's out of position, he can just run right into, he's just starting to figure those things out. The biggest thing is you can only figure him out through playing, and experience. So Scoot's been doing a really good job of that.
There's a lot of buzz around your first two trade deadlines. This one's kind of quiet. Any discussions you've had with the team about dealing with this type of week or kind of everything?
No, I haven't. I haven't really had to this year, to talk to anybody. The guys, that names will be out there, the Malcolms, and those guys have been a part of this thing for a long time, and they understand the maturity level is totally different. It doesn't change anything for them. So, no, I haven't had to have that conversation with the guys this year.
What about with this being such a young team, and a lot of these guys haven't, and not that any of the younger guys are really in any of those discussions, but none of them have really been through this part of the business aspect of it before. Are you kind of seeing any of those guys, see that stuff and get caught up in that stuff?
No, not really. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen anybody differently or act differently or anybody down, or excuse me, I'm sorry. So, no, it's been cool. It's been cool. It's been pretty quiet, So we'll see if it stays that way.
Did Shaden go through practice today?
No.
What were your biggest takeaways from Chris Murray's performance?
I thought Chris did a good job with his opportunity. I really did. Chris is a player that he doesn't make very many mistakes, man. He does it right all the time. You have a chase down block here, or offensive rebound here. He's going to do something to impact the game, is what you're always going to get from him. And I think his confidence is just starting to pick up. The more he plays, the more confident he becomes. And I thought he was good. I thought he gave us some positive minutes both nights.
And once again, an update on that injury report. DeAndre Ayton, Malcolm Brogdon, Scoot Henderson all out tonight. Simons, Matisse Thybulle, Tamani Kamara, Jeremy Grant, and Dewap Reef are your starters, but Reef is questionable and will be a game-time decision. So who will take that spot if he can't go? They go small?
Jabari Walker. Or do you go Baji? I'd go Walker, go small 5. Just because I really like Jabari Walker.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Go small. The good thing is Detroit's not going to have much to offer up. Are they going to be able to field a team tonight?
No. Monty Williams might have to play.
Gosh, it's crazy. I mean, you watched the last couple of games in Denver closely. What do you make of Scoot's recent play? What are you seeing from him?
I think he's been playing great. The biggest thing to me, and that sounds so cliche, is just confidence, man. He's playing with a little more bravado. He's going in the lane. He's playing in control. He's making the right reads. Like, he's trying to make the right passes, and he's having little moments where he's like, yeah, I'll be the scoring guy for a minute. I mean, he's still rough. Like, there's still moments where you're like, yep, he needs to learn this, he needs to learn that. But I can't come away. Think about this. The first time he scored, he had his 30-point game. Oh, yeah, he had 30 points, but it took 30 shots to do it. Well, he didn't do that the second time he did. He had a very efficient game. And I think right now what's impressive, too, is look at every single star in this league. From the Dames to the LeBrons, the Hardens, the Durants, everybody. They make a killing by getting to the free throw line and taking advantage of those easy shots. And what has he been doing during this recent stretch? He's been getting to the free throw line with efficiency, right? So if you're getting to the free throw line with efficiency when you're attacking the basket, that means that you're putting other players in compromised positions, and you're a hard player to defend. And as I said to Tom Haberstroh on the pregame show, like, I think that takes courage, right? For a 19-year-old at the time, now 20, to have the courage to drive into the rim against Giannis, against Jokic, against all the bigs in this league, and take those hits and take that challenge. I love those little things. The rest of the game will come, but I think he has the intangibles and the head on his shoulders to be a really, really good basketball player.
All right, we'll come back, and when we do, we'll give you the Coors Light Cold Hard Facts, and then I want you to hear a portion of my conversation with Dave Deckard in regards to the team and where they're at. And then we'll have the keys to the game before the end of the show tonight. Tip-off's coming up at 7 o'clock. Pistons and Blazers from Moda Center. And Curtis Long standing by for your Trailblazer pregame show, which will kick off at 6 here on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, the Trailblazers did not do much today. They went out and got a guard, Delano Banton from the Boston Celtics, for a second-round pick in 2027. They also called up Ashton Hagans on a 10-day contract, and that's it. So no big move went down. Malcolm Brogdon is still with the Trailblazers, and the fact is, it's okay. The Trailblazers did not have to make a move today. They were under no pressure to make a move. And based on the market, they probably did the smart thing by remaining patient, and now they're going to wait until the summertime to see what else is out there. And I think what's going to happen is once they hit the summertime, there are going to be more teams looking to make deals, and they'll definitely have a chance to have better value than what they would have gotten today in return for a guy like Malcolm Brogdon. Remember, this is a year one of a full rebuild for the team. They have flexibility now in the cap. They have flexibility with future assets. And they've got veteran pieces they're going to be able to move at some point in the future to bring in picks or young players. So Cronin's in a very unique spot to where he can be patient and sit back and see what the market offers up. And if he sees a deal he likes, he can jump on it. But he did not have to do anything today. And look, I said I changed my approach when I knew what they were trying to accomplish this year and what the plan was. It's not like years past where we felt like there was so much pressure on the deadline for them to make a move and pair a superstar with Dame so they can go out there and make a run at a championship. That's not the situation now. So they're going to stick with what they got. They'll continue to focus on developing the young players and getting the guys on the same page to play the way Chauncey wants them to play. And then when the summertime hits, they can hit the market and see what's available for a guy like Malcolm Brogdon. So props to Joe Cronin for remaining patient in a situation where he did not have to make a move. I spoke with Dave Deckard of BlazersEdge.com yesterday, and we talked about a variety of different topics. I want you to hear a portion of the conversation, starting out with Scoot Henderson and his recent terrific play.
Well, there's nothing wrong with pasting 30 on the opponent and proving that you have some ceiling above you. I think it's a well-needed confidence boost for a rookie who's been really maligned locally and ignored nationally. And Scoot's showing that he's got something. Now, a lot of it is against teams like the Bucks, who are terrible at defending players driving to the basket.
That's true.
But you got to start somewhere. And realistically, at the beginning of the season, he was getting 8 points and 6 turnovers against teams like that. So it's fantastic. He's finished a little better. He's absolutely gotten to the line, which is critical for him because he has the physique to absorb contact. And that's going to be the secret sauce for him and his scoring. He'll develop a perimeter shot, but I don't think he'll ever be a dead-eye shooter. But if he can go to the lane, take a couple steps, and either pull up or draw the foul if he continues, he will be a deadly offensive weapon. Add a little dishing out of the paint, old-school style, and you've got yourself an actual point guard.
I like it. I love he oozes positivity. I like the way he handles himself for such a young man. I'm enjoying watching him play. Also, over the last couple of weeks, we've seen the passes per game up, the assist totals are up, the player movement and ball movement has been better. What do you make of that?
Well, here's what you need to know. If you watch the post-game interviews, Chauncey Billups was asked about Scoot's coachability a couple games ago, and he broke into an unconscious smile when he talked about how coachable Scoot is.
He did.
And it was kind of vulnerable, like a clear moment where you understand what the Blazers see in Scoot. Now, Scoot's ability to actually make a pass has never been in question. His ability to complete a pass has been the problem. But I think he's seeing the court better, and also, since he's become a little more of an offensive threat, he's developed some separation between him and the defender, who now have to worry about him scoring, and that's opened up the passing lanes a little bit more for him, and you're starting to see some of the fruits of that.
You know, one thing I was going to ask you, where do you come out on how much a guy can improve his shooting as he enters the NBA and continues on throughout his career? Because we all know about the shooting numbers and the poor three-point percentage in the G League. Where do you come out on that and how much a guy can improve his shot?
Well, it's already gotten better. I mean, he drifted up above 30%, and he started the season at 0.87. So he is developing it as we watch. The other thing that you look for is his misses more and more are online but short or long.
Yes.
At the beginning of the season, he was missing left, right, he's hitting the backboard nowhere near the rim. So you're already seeing him develop some of that. And the three-point shot is a skill that can be developed. Now, again, I don't think he'll ever be Ray Allen. He's never going to be natural at that. But he doesn't have to be. Just enough of a threat to make the defender respect him, coming off of pick and rolls or guarding him one-on-one, so the defender has to get close enough to bother his three-point shot, will allow Scoot to drive by that defender, and then all the goodness we just talked about will develop.
We're talking with Dave Decker, BlazersEdge.com here on the Rip City Drive. You know, Blazer fans get mad at me sometimes when I talk about this with the trade deadline coming up tomorrow at noon. At the beginning of the year, Dave, I was convinced, based on some of the chatter I was hearing, that Malcolm Brogdon would be moved by the deadline. Now, I'm not sure they're going to make any move at all, but the way I see it, with the way that everything is constructed, there doesn't seem to be any pressure on Joe Cronin to have to make a move by the deadline tomorrow. I mean, can't they be patient, or am I just misreading that?
That's exactly correct. It's not that they won't make a move, but there's, as you say, there's no reason for them to make a move right now. In order to make a trade tomorrow, they would have to believe that that trade is either something they've wanted for a while or is the best offer they're going to get in the next calendar year. Under those circumstances, sure, they would pull the trigger. But can you really anticipate that the trade deadline possibilities for a player like Brogdon are going to be greater than this summer's possibilities when a lot more teams are in the trade market and there's a lot more action going on? I mean, just look at the players who have not just historically been traded at the deadline, but also just today. I mean, if you're excited about Shake Milton, more power to you, but that's the kind of player that's being moved right now, and second-round picks. The Blazers are going to want more than that from Brogdon, and if they're not going to get it, why not have him mentor Scoot Henderson longer, produce 20 points a game, be a support to Coach Billups? Why wouldn't you do that for the remainder of the season and then look to move him this summer when 30 teams are making moves and offers instead of 3?
You know, someone brought this point up to me a couple of days ago, and I don't really know the answer to it, so I'll ask you. Do you lose any value in Brogdon by moving him during the summer with 1 year left on his deal compared to now when he's got a year plus?
That depends on who receives him. I mean, if it's a team like Miami who wants to turn their season around now, they might pay a premium to get him right now instead of this summer. And they might look other directions if they go into the summer with the current roster and, you know, need a general backup point guard. They have a bigger choice. So a team like that, you might get extra now. But for the average NBA team, there's not going to be much of a loss in value at all. It's the same amount of contract in the final year. The only question is whether a team needs him for a playoff run. Now, again, the teams that can forecast Malcolm Brogdon making a difference for them right now to their fortunes in 2024 is a small subset. Some players or some teams in the middle or the top of the bracket, right? But there are a lot more teams over the summer who are going to speculate, we're going to be good next year. We could really use a guy like this. So not only do you have the teams that used to want him, you have a whole nother third of the league who goes, yeah, that might be a sensible move, and that will create more competition and maybe a better offer. So I would say there's a chance that you lose value, but that chance is pretty small. For most of the league, the offers will be just as good, if not better.
All right, so Dave, help me with this process. Like, I totally understand what the Trailblazers are trying to do right now. They're in year one of a rebuild. So as they close out this season and move into the offseason, like, what are the objectives? What is the next step? What are they trying to accomplish?
Well, I mean, developing their young players is obviously number one.
Yes.
They've got to ascertain what they have, right?
Uh-huh.
That also informs what they do in the draft or whether they make some moves this summer. So that's the first priority. Second priority, what does this year's draft look like, and what do those picks look like? Do you want to execute all of them? The Blazers have, what, 3? It's unlikely that in this draft they're going to want to keep all 3. So what do you want to trade for? who's your target for the draft trades, so that you can maybe use your own lottery pick, but maybe move those others and get someone else you like. I don't think it's going to be a big free agency summer. I don't think that there's much mystery around Jeremy Grant. I suppose the other question mark is, well, what do you do with DeAndre Ayton? And I'd be surprised if they move him this summer, but he's kind of taking an exam with the Blazers, and it's probably about 2 years. So figuring out how much you can build your team around Ayton, how much he can score, can he defend, those questions remain to be answered fully, and I think that is also a priority.
There's Dave Deckard sharing his thoughts on Scoot. And, you heard the same thing from him. I asked him that question, like, is there a disadvantage to moving Brogdon during the summertime when he's got 1 year left on the deal compared to 1+ doing it now? And he said it just depends on who you're dealing with. So, yeah, I like where the Blazers are at right now. Just continue to press forward. You got 32 more games. Continue the development with the young players. Continue to get DeAndre Ayton more involved in the mix and get him more comfortable. And for Chauncey Billups and his staff, just continue to emphasize those things that you want him to do on the floor. And then from there, we move into the offseason and continue this process of the rebuild. And the Blazers right now with 2 picks in the upcoming draft. They got their own, and then that pick from the Warriors. So they're in a good spot. They're in a good spot, and they got flexibility, and they've got assets they can work with to continue to build this team. And it may not be draft picks. It could be young players that are a better match time-wise to what they have to work with right now with Ant and Shaden and Scoot. All right, we'll come back and give you the keys to the game. Chris Burkhardt and Chad Doing here. Tip-off with the Pistons and Blazers at 7. We'll be back with the 5th quarter following the game. And Curtis Long standing by for your Trailblazer pregame show across the Trailblazers Radio Network. All right, tonight, there's multiple guys out of the lineup, including Scoot Henderson, Malcolm Brogdon, and DeAndre Ayton. I want to see the same things that we've seen over the last couple of weeks, and that is the passes being up per game, ball movement, player movement, and a bunch of different guys touching the ball. Try and work the offense to get the best shots possible. What I don't want to see tonight is with a lot of different faces on the floor, I don't want to see it turn into an ISO night for Jeremy and Ant. Run the offense, get multiple players involved, and go from that. And just continue that because they've played a good brand of basketball over the last couple of weeks. And that's what I want to see. And then they can move on and get ready for New Orleans on Saturday. And that's about it. Again, it's all about the player development, the young guys. That's priority number one now for the next 32 games. Develop, develop, develop. And outside of that, go out there and compete. But the Blazers have done a good job. They've been aggressive and attacking, trying to get to the foul line. They've been sharing the basketball. They've been more engaged recently defensively in terms of their communication. It's not perfect, but those are the type of signs we're looking for from this group on both ends. Normally what happens is when you have multiple guys out of the lineup is guys will lean on each other and share the basketball a little bit more. And this could be a night for Ant, to be the primary guy and really get off too. So just do it within the confines of the offense. And you're playing a mess of a team in Detroit. So it's an opportunity for everyone to get off. And hopefully Duop Reef will be able to go tonight. He's going to be a game-time decision. It sure is nice to have an asset like Reef that can step in when Ayton's out, who is ill. You got anything you're looking for tonight, Burkhardt?
No, just because I want to see Scoot play well, but, there goes that. I think you're right, though. I think this is the type of game, especially with the Pistons. They just cut another player. Gallinari just got cut, so they don't have anybody. This is the type of game I think Ant can come out, set the tone early, get the Blazers up big, and then hopefully let them coast.
That sounds good to me. Oh, my goodness. Another trade deadline is come and gone in the NBA, and the Trailblazers did nothing substantial, and so now they'll look to the offseason to go out there and see what moves could be had. And then we go from there. But like I mentioned before, just go back to the goals. Development of the young players. Unfortunately, Shaedon Sharpe won't be able to be a part of that with the core surgery. So really we're looking at three guys, Tamani Kamara, Scoot Henderson, and Jabari Walker. And we just continue to go with that. And we'll see how things shake out. The Trailblazers now, after that brutal stretch, the All-Star break's just right around the corner now. So the team's going to be able to get some good rest. And I'm anxious to see that as well because, they've been grinding. And if I feel it, I know they're feeling it too. So you've got the game coming up tonight against Detroit. And then they've got multiple home games in a row. New Orleans on Saturday. Back-to-back games on Tuesday and Thursday against Minnesota. Denver next Friday, the 23rd. Charlotte, Miami on the 25th and 27th, and that closes out the homestand before they take off for a road trip that starts with back-to-back games in Memphis and a stop in Minnesota. But the Blazers have a ton of home games coming up over the next few weeks. That'll give them a chance to get some more practice time, get some rest, and hopefully get a chance to play and continue to showcase what we've seen over the last couple of weeks. Because I've been impressed really ever since the 4-game road trip and the play that we've seen on that trip, coming back home, and even the 2 games in Denver, a better brand of basketball with multiple guys involved. So I like seeing that. But that's the stretch. We are now officially in the stretch run. When you get past the halfway point in terms of games played, and then you get past the deadline, and we've got the All-Star break right around the corner, that's where it begins. Because that game on Thursday next week against Minnesota, after that game, they get the week off for All-Star break. And they won't play a game for over a week because they play on the 15th, which is a Thursday. Their next game against Denver's on Friday the 23rd. So that's what we're looking at now. And the Blazers, I think, 15 and 35, 32 games to go, and a big stretch coming up here at home starting tonight with Detroit. My man Chris Burkhardt will be on the Trailblazers Radio Network next week for the home games against Minnesota on the 13th and 15th.
Yes!
That's going to be pretty cool for you to see Minnesota up close because they're playing good ball. Like, I watch them. I'm like, they defend. They play team basketball. Karl Anthony Towns is having a good year. Anthony Edwards is a star. I like the way they operate. We just don't we're not used to seeing Minnesota in this position. So it's like, wait, what's going on here?
Yeah, no,
They're good.
They are playing great ball. The Twin Towers are working better than a lot of people predicted. And Anthony Edwards, he's a bona fide stud. He's playing incredible.
See, where did we miss on that? Because everyone laughed at that trade when it went down.
I didn't. I have receipts. I got called a fool for thinking it would work.
And it paid off.
Burkhardt, you're an idiot if you think Cat can play power forward. Yeah, he's doing just fine next to Rudy.
All right. Curtis Long's got your Trailblazer pregame show next. Tip-off is going to be at 7. Chris and I will be back following the game for fifth quarter here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Enjoy the game. Show me your Blazer. Talk to you on the 5th.